The mysterious arrival. It was a quiet night on Earth. The stars above shimmered like diamonds, scattered across the dark sky. No one knew that something extraordinary was about to happen, something that would change everything. At a remote research station in the middle of nowhere, the scientists were finishing their work for the day. The air was cool, and the sounds of the night were distant, but there was an uneasy feeling in the air, a feeling that something was coming. Dr. Emily Parker, the lead scientist at the station, sat at her desk, reviewing data from their latest experiments. She had been working tirelessly for weeks, studying alien life forms that had been discovered in the nearby space sector. But tonight, something felt different. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to happen. Without warning, the station's alarms went off, breaking the silence and sending a wave of panic through the crew. Dr. Parker shot to her feet, her heart racing. The lights flickered for a moment, and then a deep, low rumble filled the air. Something was coming. Something big. The ground trembled beneath their feet, and the station's windows rattled. "Everyone, get to the observation deck now," Dr. Parker shouted, her voice filled with urgency. The crew rushed to follow her orders, fear in their eyes. When they reached the deck, they saw it. A massive object, glowing with a strange, pulsating light, was descending from the sky. It wasn't a meteor. This was no natural phenomenon. It was something far more terrifying. The shape of the object was like nothing they had ever seen before. It had sharp, jagged edges, and it seemed to shimmer as it cut through the atmosphere. It's coming right for us," one of the scientists whispered in disbelief. The object grew larger with every passing second, its speed too fast to comprehend. There was no time to evacuate, no time to react. All they could do was watch as it neared the ground, its bright light growing more intense. With a sudden crash, the object landed, sending a shockwave through the ground. The station shook violently, and the crew had to grab onto anything they could to stay upright. When the dust finally settled, the object remained, sitting there like a strange, foreign entity on Earth. Dr. Parker's mind raced. What could it be? The team had seen their fair share of strange space phenomena, but nothing like this. The object was not just an object, it was a ship, and it had crashed on Earth. Before they could react, the hatch of the ship slowly began to open. A cloud of mist poured out from inside, making it hard to see anything. The scientists backed away, unsure of what to expect. But Dr. Parker felt an odd pull, a need to understand, to learn what had just arrived on their planet. Out of the mist, a figure emerged, a girl, no older than 20, but unlike any human they had ever seen. Her skin was pale, almost translucent, and her eyes glowed with a strange golden light. Her hair was long and silver, flowing like liquid metal, catching the light in an almost otherworldly way. She stepped carefully, as if she were still trying to get used to her surroundings. The girl's eyes scanned the humans in front of her, her gaze slow and deliberate. Her movements were graceful, almost unnatural. She didn't speak at first. She simply stood there, as if waiting for something, or perhaps someone. What are you?" Dr. Parker whispered under her breath, unable to stop herself from speaking. Her heart was pounding in her chest. Could this girl be an alien? Was she the first of her kind to visit Earth? The girl seemed to hear Dr. Parker's question, for her gaze shifted toward her. The moment their eyes met, Dr. Parker felt a chill run down her spine. There was something about this girl, something powerful, something ancient. The alien girl's expression softened, and she took a step forward. "Help me," the girl said in a voice that was both haunting and mesmerizing. Her words were soft, almost musical, but there was an unmistakable urgency in her tone. Dr. Parker could barely believe what she was hearing. She glanced at her team, all of them equally stunned by the presence of this mysterious girl. Her voice sounded human, but the way she spoke, the way she carried herself, suggested she was not. She was something far beyond anything they could understand. "Who are you?" Dr. Parker asked, finding her voice again. Where are you from? The girl looked down at her hands, then back up at the humans around her. I don't know, she replied. I was sent here, but I don't remember why. My world, it is gone. The words hit the team like a hammer. A whole world destroyed. What kind of creature could survive such a catastrophe? The alien girl seemed fragile, but there was something in her eyes that spoke of strength and survival. Before anyone could speak, the girl staggered, almost collapsing to the ground. Dr. Parker rushed forward to catch her, her medical instincts kicking in. She's hurt, Dr. Parker said, looking at her team. We need to get her inside and check her over. Now, as they guided the alien girl into the station, Dr. Parker couldn't help but wonder what this girl's arrival meant for Earth. Was this a moment of first contact, or the beginning of something far darker? The girl had arrived, but she wasn't just any alien. She was something else entirely, something they were about to learn a lot more about. The questions flooded Dr. Parker's mind as they led her to the medical bay. Who was she really? Why had she come to Earth? And what did her presence mean for humanity's future? Little did they know, the arrival of this alien girl was just the beginning, and the answers they sought would lead them down a path that would change everything they knew about life, desire, and the power of the unknown. The unforeseen effects. The alien girl had barely settled into the medical bay when things began to spiral out of control. Dr. Parker and her team worked quickly, running tests and taking samples from the mysterious visitor. She didn't speak much after their initial interaction, her golden eyes staring blankly ahead, lost in thought. The team assumed she was recovering from the trauma of her crash landing. But as they started administering Earth's basic medical treatments, they were unprepared for what happened next. Dr. Parker had opted to give the alien girl a simple sedative to ease her distress. It was standard practice for any injured patient, regardless of species. However, as the injection was administered, something strange happened. The alien girl's entire body stiffened, her eyes widening, and she suddenly took a deep, gasping breath, as if she had been submerged underwater for too long. What's happening to her? One of the scientists muttered in disbelief as they watched her reaction. Dr. Parker's heart skipped a beat. Her initial reaction was one of confusion. This wasn't how the sedative was supposed to work. It was a routine, harmless drug meant to relax patients and dull pain. But the alien girl was experiencing something far more intense. The girl's body began to tremble, and her skin, already a translucent shade of pale, started to glow faintly, like an inner light was trying to break free. Her breathing became shallow, almost labored, and her hands clenched into fists. The team stepped back, unsure of what to do next. Suddenly, the girl's eyes locked with Dr. Parker's, and for a brief moment, she looked more human than alien. There was a deep, unsettling desire in her gaze. She stared at Dr. Parker with an intensity that made the scientist feel uncomfortable. It wasn't fear or confusion. It was something else, something that Dr. Parker couldn't quite place. Then, the alien girl spoke, her voice low and soft, almost a whisper. What is this feeling? Her words struck Dr. Parker like a lightning bolt. This wasn't just about the medicine. The girl wasn't just reacting to the sedative. Something more complex was going on. The girl's gaze shifted towards one of the male scientists standing nearby, and for a moment, her eyes seemed to glow brighter, the golden hue almost glowing unnaturally. What is happening to her? Dr. Parker asked, her voice filled with panic. She quickly turned to one of the medical officers. Analyze her vital signs. We need to know what's going on. As they ran more tests, it became clear that the sedative had not had the expected calming effect. Instead, it seemed to have heightened the girl's physical senses. Her body temperature was rising. Her heartbeat was erratic, faster than it should have been. But the most alarming part was her behavior. She seemed to be fixated on the male members of the research team, her eyes following them with a growing intensity. Dr. Parker didn't understand it, Could the alien girl be suffering from some kind of adverse reaction to the drug? Or was it something deeper, something more inherent to her species that they couldn't possibly comprehend? Then, to the team's horror, the girl slowly stood up from the medical bed, her movements slow and deliberate. She took a shaky step forward and raised her hand as if reaching out for one of the scientists. The man, startled, stepped back quickly. "Stay away from me," he said, voice shaking. "What's happening to you?" But the alien girl did not respond with words. Instead, her gaze softened, and she extended her hand further toward him. The tension in the room was thick, and Dr. Parker could feel the air growing heavy, suffocating. Something was wrong, deeply wrong. The girl's actions were becoming unpredictable and unsettling. The man, unsure how to react, took another step back. "Dr. Parker, what should we do?" Dr. Parker's mind raced. She didn't have an answer. They were treading on dangerous ground. Whatever had caused the girl's sudden transformation, it was more than just a reaction to Earth medicine. There was something about her physiology, something alien that was reacting to the very air around them, to the humans themselves. The alien girl's expression darkened, her lips parting slightly as she spoke again. "I need more." Her words were slow, measured, and when she looked at the male scientist again, her gaze became more intense. She moved toward him once more, this time with an undeniable purpose. The girl's desire seemed uncontrollable, her physical state erratic. "Stop!" Dr. Parker shouted, rushing forward to intervene. "We need to sedate her again. This is not normal." But the alien girl was too fast. In a single, graceful movement, she grabbed the scientist's arm, her touch gentle but unyielding. The room seemed to freeze as Dr. Parker watched the exchange between them. It was clear that the alien girl was fixated on him, as if she could sense something beyond the physical world, an intense attraction, a need that had nothing to do with logic or reasoning. "Her body is rejecting the sedative," one of the medical officers whispered, trying to comprehend what was happening. "But her attraction, her behavior, it's unlike anything we've seen." Dr. Parker stood frozen for a moment, her mind swirling with questions. Why was the alien girl reacting this way? Was it the Earth medicine? Or was there something more, something hidden deep within her alien biology? Before Dr. Parker could give further orders, the alien girl released the scientist's arm. Her eyes scanned the room, and it was clear that she was trying to understand the situation. Her desire to connect, to bond, growing with every passing second. "This is just the beginning," Dr. Parker thought grimly. "We don't know what we're dealing with." The hidden power. The room was thick with tension, and Dr. Parker's mind raced. She stood frozen in place, trying to process what was happening. The alien girl's strange reaction to the Earth medicine, her growing attraction, and her erratic behavior, all of it pointed to something more than just a biological malfunction. This wasn't a simple case of an alien being affected by foreign substances. No, something far deeper was at play. The team had been observing her closely for hours now. The alien girl, whom they had once thought to be a fragile and confused being, was proving to be anything but. The power she seemed to possess was not only physical, it was a force that seemed to affect the very environment around her. The tension in the air thickened as she slowly moved about the room, her movements graceful yet unsettling. Dr. Parker cautiously approached her, trying to maintain control of the situation. The girl was standing near the corner of the room, her eyes closed, as if concentrating on something. The golden glow in her eyes flickered, and she began to sway slightly, as though something deep within her was awakening. "Please," Dr. Parker whispered softly, unsure if the girl could even understand. "You need to stay calm." But the alien girl didn't seem to hear her. Instead, her gaze shifted back to the male scientist she had previously interacted with. His presence was like a magnet to her, drawing her in with a force that neither he nor the others could explain. Dr. Parker noticed that every time the girl looked at him, the room temperature seemed to rise, a strange heat building in the air, as if her emotions were transferring into the very atmosphere. "Stay away from him," Dr. Parker said, her voice firmer now as she stepped closer. "We don't know what you're doing." But it was too late. The girl turned swiftly, her eyes blazing with intensity. "I need him." The words were slow, deliberate, and carried a strange weight. The male scientist, his face pale and his body stiff with fear, backed away. He didn't want to provoke her further. But the alien girl didn't seem interested in his fear. She was fixated on something else entirely, a primal desire that had nothing to do with reason. The air grew heavier. Dr. Parker could feel her heart beating faster, her breath quickening as the room seemed to close in around them. The alien girl's golden eyes glowed brighter, her body language shifting into something more powerful. The scientist who had been standing near her stepped back again, this time more quickly, almost running out of the room in his panic. "What is happening to her?" one of the medical officers asked, her voice filled with fear and confusion. "I don't know," Dr. Parker answered, her voice tense. "But whatever it is, it's something beyond our understanding." The alien girl began to make slow, deliberate steps towards the exit. Her golden eyes never left the scientist, her focus unshaken. It was almost as if she was drawn to him by some force that they couldn't see or comprehend. "Stop," Dr. Parker ordered firmly. But the girl did not listen. She simply continued toward the door, moving with an unnerving calmness, like a predator stalking its prey. Dr. Parker's pulse quickened. She knew they couldn't allow the situation to escalate any further. "We need to sedate her again," she said, turning to the team. "If we don't, she might." But before she could finish her sentence, the alien girl's head snapped toward Dr. Parker. The air seemed to ripple around her as if the very fabric of reality had bent to her will. "No," the alien girl said with a deep, resonating voice that filled the room. "I need this." In an instant, the golden light in her eyes flared, and the air grew even hotter. Dr. Parker felt an intense pressure in her chest, as though the girl's gaze alone was forcing her to act against her will. It was unlike anything she had ever felt before. Something alien, something ancient, and something powerful. Dr. Parker's mind raced, trying to think of a solution. She needed to calm the girl down, but it was becoming clear that the alien girl's biology wasn't just reacting to Earth's medicine. It was reacting to something in the humans around her. And that something was dangerously close to overwhelming her. Just then, the lights flickered, and the room filled with a strange, vibrating hum. The medical equipment started to malfunction, flashing in and out of function. The alien girl's power wasn't just psychological. It was affecting the very electronics in the room. Dr. Parker's heart sank. They were running out of time. "We need to stop this now," Dr. Parker shouted. She turned to her team and ordered them to prepare another sedative, hoping that this time it would work. But she wasn't so sure anymore. The alien girl wasn't just responding to Earth medicine. She was responding to something much more profound. As the team scrambled to prepare the sedative, Dr. Parker kept her focus on the alien girl, who was now standing motionless, her eyes still glowing brightly. The tension in the room was unbearable, and it felt as though every moment could trigger something catastrophic. "Please," Dr. Parker whispered, her voice filled with desperation. "We don't want to hurt you." The alien girl didn't respond immediately. Instead, she closed her eyes for a moment, as if in deep concentration. Then, without warning, she opened them and stared directly at Dr. Parker. "You don't understand," she said, her voice low and almost mournful. "I am not just an alien. I am the last of my kind. And now, I need to survive." Dr. Parker froze. The alien girl wasn't just a visitor from another world. She was something far more complicated, a being who had survived the destruction of her home. She wasn't just here to study Earth. She was here to survive. But survive what? What did she mean by that? Before Dr. Parker could ask, the girl's golden eyes flickered one last time, and the entire room seemed to exhale in unison. The pressure in the air lessened. The temperature slowly returned to normal, but the silence left everyone uneasy. The girl had returned to her passive state, but the lingering tension remained. The alien's secret. Dr. Parker couldn't shake the feeling that the alien girl was holding something back. There was more to her than just the strange reaction to Earth medicine. The girl's words echoed in her mind. I need to survive. What did she mean by that? What kind of survival was she talking about? The team worked in silence, the tension still palpable in the air. They had managed to sedate the alien girl temporarily, but it was clear that this wasn't just about controlling her. This was about understanding her. She wasn't just another patient. They had to find out what was really going on inside her. Dr. Parker, deep in thought, reviewed the data they had gathered. The sedative had had little effect on the girl other than heightening her sensitivity and triggering an overwhelming desire she couldn't seem to control. Her golden eyes, once filled with intense curiosity and desire, now seemed peaceful, too peaceful. The medical team had been busy running every test they could think of, but none of the results gave any clues. The alien girl's biology was incredibly complex, and her physiology was unlike anything they had ever seen before. Her DNA was radically different from humans, with sequences they couldn't identify. Even the sedative they had used, designed for humans, seemed to have an unintended impact on her, amplifying something inside her that no one could explain. Dr. Parker leaned against a table, her mind racing. She needed answers, but the more she learned about this alien girl, the more questions arose. What if the girl wasn't here by accident? What if her arrival was part of something far bigger, something she couldn't even begin to fathom? As Dr. Parker mulled over the situation, the girl began to stir. Her golden eyes fluttered open, and she slowly sat up. Her gaze swept over the room, focusing on each member of the team in turn. She seemed calmer than before, but there was an air of sadness in her expression. You've been unconscious, Dr. Parker said, trying to sound reassuring. Are you feeling better? The alien girl didn't immediately respond. Instead, she glanced toward the window, her eyes distant. It was as if she was looking through the glass, seeing something beyond the confines of the lab, something far away. I don't belong here, she said softly, almost to herself. Dr. Parker took a deep breath. Now was the moment to ask her, to find out what had caused her to react so strangely. You said you needed to survive, Dr. Parker said carefully. What did you mean by that? Is there something you're running from? The girl's golden eyes locked onto hers, and for a moment, Dr. Parker felt a chill run down her spine. The alien's gaze was intense, filled with secrets, as if she was weighing whether or not to reveal the truth. I didn't come here by choice, the alien girl whispered, her voice barely audible. I was sent. My people, they're gone. I am the last one. Dr. Parker's heart sank. The last one, she repeated, her voice a whisper of disbelief. What happened to your people? The alien girl's expression darkened, and she looked down, her fingers absently tracing the edge of the bed. They were wiped out, by a force far greater than anything you can imagine. We tried to fight, we tried to survive. But in the end, it was too late. We were hunted down. I was the only one left. Dr. Parker felt a wave of sympathy for the girl. She had known that the alien's arrival wasn't just an accident. But the truth, the devastation she had experienced, was far worse than anything they could have anticipated. The alien girl continued, her voice trembling. I was sent here to find sanctuary, to find a new home. But I didn't know what it would mean. I didn't know I would become like this. Dr. Parker moved closer, her curiosity now mixed with a deep sense of concern. Become like what? What's happening to you? The alien girl looked up again, her golden eyes filled with a strange longing. I didn't know that the medicine, the atmosphere here, would awaken something inside me. I didn't know that being close to humans would make me feel this way. Dr. Parker's mind raced. It wasn't just the medicine then. It wasn't just the sedative. The very presence of humans was causing the alien girl to react in ways she couldn't control. The girl's biology was reacting to them, an overwhelming, uncontrollable need that seemed to grow with each passing moment. "I don't want to hurt anyone," the alien girl said, her voice breaking. I don't understand what's happening to me." Dr. Parker paused, taking a deep breath. The girl was in turmoil. Her emotions, her desires, her powers, everything seemed out of control. And now, they were running out of time. Whatever was happening to her, it wasn't something that could be controlled by medicine or science alone. The alien girl was becoming something beyond understanding. But Dr. Parker couldn't let that stop her. She had to help the girl. She had to find a way to help her control whatever power she had awakened inside herself. "We'll find a way to help you," Dr. Parker said firmly, her voice filled with determination. "We just need to understand what's happening. Together, we can figure this out." The alien girl's expression softened, a brief flicker of hope crossing her features. But it was fleeting. The room felt charged with an energy that Dr. Parker couldn't ignore. Something was coming. Something the alien girl hadn't yet shared. A secret that could change everything. And as the girl's golden eyes glowed faintly in the dim light of the room, Dr. Parker knew that whatever lay ahead, it would test them all in ways they couldn't even begin to imagine. The unforeseen consequences. The tension in the lab had reached a boiling point. Dr. Parker couldn't ignore the gnawing feeling in her gut that told her they were approaching something dangerous. The alien girl, once a quiet, innocent figure, was now at the center of an unfolding mystery that no one was prepared for. The power she seemed to have was growing, and it was clear that they could no longer control it. As the girl sat on the edge of the bed, her gaze was distant, and Dr. Parker could see the conflict in her eyes. She wanted help, but the forces inside her were too powerful. No medicine, no sedative, could tame what had awakened in her. The golden light in the alien girl's eyes flared briefly as she looked at Dr. Parker. It wasn't the calm, passive gaze from before. It was wild, as if something was pushing against her restraint. The team's medical officer noticed this too. "She's reacting again," he said, his voice tense. "This isn't normal. Her heart rate's spiking, and her body temperature is rising rapidly." Dr. Parker's mind raced. What had changed? What had triggered this sudden surge? Had it been something they did? Or was it simply the girl's biological reaction to being around humans? Before Dr. Parker could respond, the girl suddenly stood up, her movements jerky and erratic. I can't control it," she muttered, her voice shaking. "The need, it's unbearable." The room temperature dropped in an instant, the walls growing cold as the energy from the alien girl pulsed around them. Dr. Parker stepped back, realizing with horror that the girl's power was no longer just affecting the atmosphere. It was influencing the very fabric of their surroundings. Equipment started malfunctioning, screens flickered, and the lights dimmed. "We need to sedate her again," one of the scientists suggested, panic creeping into his voice. "No," Dr. Parker snapped. She was done with the sedatives. Whatever was going on, they needed to understand it, not suppress it. "We have to try something different." But as she spoke, the alien girl's golden eyes flashed with a sudden intensity. "You don't understand," she said, her voice low, almost threatening. "I need him." The male scientist who had been observing her closely froze. His body stiffened, and he took an unconscious step back. The alien girl's attention was fixed solely on him now, her eyes burning with desire. "You can't keep me locked away," she said softly, almost pleading. "I am more than what you see. I am the last of my kind." Dr. Parker felt a cold sweat break out on her forehead. The girl's words were too cryptic, too layered. This wasn't just a biological reaction to Earth's medicine. It was something else entirely. Was she speaking metaphorically? Or was there something deeper at play? What exactly had happened to her people, and why was she fixated on the human male? Suddenly, the girl's body shifted as if she was being pulled by some invisible force. Her movements were jerky, but she was no longer in full control. The golden glow in her eyes flickered and grew brighter, consuming her entire face. She let out a guttural cry, something primal, something alien, as though she was resisting something inside herself. The male scientist looked to Dr. Parker for guidance, but she was helpless. The girl's attraction to him, this need that was growing stronger by the second, it wasn't natural, and it wasn't just desire. There was something deeper, something connected to her very essence. "She's not herself," Dr. Parker whispered to the team, her voice shaky. "We don't know what she's been through. Whatever happened to her people, it's shaping her now. And we need to figure out how to help her before it's too late." Before anyone could respond, the alien girl collapsed to her knees, her body trembling. Her golden eyes dimmed, and her breath came in short gasps. She was fighting it, fighting the power that had taken over her. For a moment, Dr. Parker saw a glimpse of vulnerability in her. The alien girl wasn't a predator. She was just a survivor, lost and confused in a world she didn't understand. The lights flickered again, and the temperature shot up, the air growing thick and heavy with energy. The alien girl looked up, her eyes now filled with sorrow. "I'm sorry," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I don't know how much longer I can control it." Dr. Parker's heart ached for her. The alien girl wasn't a threat. She was a victim. And yet, her very existence was becoming a danger to everyone around her. The need to survive, the overwhelming desire that was consuming her, it wasn't just about Earth's medicine or humans. It was about something much bigger, something the girl wasn't even fully aware of. "What do we do?" one of the scientists asked, fear evident in his voice. "She's not stable. We need to contain her before." "We're not containing her," Dr. Parker cut in sharply. "We're helping her. We're going to find out what's really happening. She's not some monster. She's a survivor. And she deserves to live." But even as she said the words, Dr. Parker knew they were running out of time. The alien girl was on the edge, and whatever was driving her, whatever had awoken inside her, could not be ignored. If they didn't act soon, they could all find themselves caught in the storm of her uncontrollable power. The alien girl looked up at Dr. Parker one last time, her eyes filled with both fear and longing. "Please," she said softly, "help me." Dr. Parker nodded, a sense of resolve filling her. There was no going back now. They were on the edge of something far bigger than they could imagine. And they needed to uncover the truth before it was too late. The dangerous revelation. As the hours passed, Dr. Parker and the team worked tirelessly, desperately searching for a way to stabilize the alien girl. But the situation was spiraling out of control. The girl's power was now undeniable, and no matter what they tried, they couldn't keep her from slipping further into a state of uncontrollable emotion and energy. It was as if the very essence of her species had been awakened by Earth's medicine, something so primal that it couldn't be restrained. The alien girl, sitting in the center of the lab, was no longer the innocent being they had first encountered. Her golden eyes now burned with a fiery intensity, and her entire body hummed with energy. She was becoming something more. But what was it? "We're running out of time," Dr. Parker said, her voice tense as she scanned the room. The other scientists nodded in agreement. They had to figure out what was driving the alien girl's overwhelming need. Every moment that passed, the danger increased. The girl's body trembled as though fighting an invisible force. She wasn't speaking anymore. Her mind seemed to be consumed by something far beyond her control. It was as if she was trying to suppress whatever was growing inside her. "I can't stop it," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "It's too strong. It's all I can feel now. The hunger, the need. I can't push it away." Dr. Parker stepped forward, her heart aching. "You don't have to fight it alone. We'll help you." But as the words left her mouth, the alien girl's body surged forward, her movements wild and erratic. The force of her energy blasted through the room, knocking several pieces of equipment off the tables. The walls began to vibrate with the raw intensity of her power. Dr. Parker instinctively took a step back, a sense of fear creeping up her spine. What was happening to her? What was driving this relentless force? The alien girl's eyes locked onto her, and for a brief moment, Dr. Parker thought she saw a flicker of understanding behind the chaos. But then the girl's face contorted with pain. "I'm sorry," she gasped. "I didn't know. I didn't know I could do this." It was then that Dr. Parker realized. The alien girl wasn't just reacting to the medicine or to the humans around her. She wasn't just a victim of her own biology. There was something deeper at play, something dark that had been buried in her mind, hidden in her memories. "What is it?" Dr. Parker asked, her voice filled with urgency. "What's inside of you? Why can't you control this?" The alien girl's breathing became erratic as she slowly stood up, her body trembling violently. "It's not just my species. It's my power. My people were created for a purpose I don't understand. But we were meant to be warriors. We were meant to fight, to survive. And now it's awakening. Everything inside me is coming back." Dr. Parker felt a chill spread through her body. This wasn't just an alien with strange biology. This was something more. This girl had been engineered, created for war. And now, whatever she had been made for was forcing its way to the surface. The girl's voice broke, her hands clutching her head as if trying to block out the voices she could no longer ignore. "They were all supposed to be like me. But I'm the only one left. I was meant to lead them. But they're all gone. The others, they were all killed." Dr. Parker's mind raced as she processed the girl's words. The others, they were killed. Who had done this to them? "Who did this to you?" Dr. Parker demanded. "Who destroyed your people?" The alien girl's golden eyes flickered with something dark, a shadow passing through her expression. For a moment, it almost seemed like she wasn't the one speaking, like someone else was controlling her voice. "They're coming," the girl whispered, her voice distant. "They destroyed my people, but they're not gone. They're still out there, waiting, and they'll come for me." Dr. Parker froze. She had known that this situation was more complicated than it seemed, but this was beyond anything she had imagined. The alien girl wasn't just a lone survivor of a destroyed civilization. She was the key to something much larger, something much darker. "They will find me," the girl continued, her eyes wild. "They will find me, and they will destroy everything you've built." The air in the room seemed to thicken, as if the very walls themselves were closing in. Dr. Parker could feel the shift in the atmosphere, a sense of impending doom that was impossible to ignore. "What do we do now?" one of the scientists asked, his voice trembling. Dr. Parker's mind raced as she considered their options. There was no more time for tests, no more time for second guesses. The alien girl's power was too unpredictable, and the threat she had warned them about was real. "We prepare," Dr. Parker said, her voice resolute. "We protect her, and we prepare for what's coming." The final confrontation. The lab was alive with tension as the clock ticked down to the inevitable arrival of the alien girl's enemies. Dr. Parker couldn't shake the feeling that the walls were closing in on them. The air was heavy with dread, and every scientist in the room could feel it. The alien girl's warnings were no longer something to be ignored. They were real, and the stakes were higher than they had ever imagined. The girl herself was a whirlwind of energy, her golden eyes flashing with the raw power she couldn't control. She was still shaken from the revelation about her past, but something in her was shifting. Her mind seemed to be clearing, and her body was beginning to adapt to the incredible force that surged through her. It was both terrifying and awe-inspiring. "Dr. Parker," one of the scientists said, his voice strained, "we've received a transmission. Something's out there, something huge." Dr. Parker's heart skipped a beat. She knew exactly what that meant. The alien girl's enemies had found them. The transmission was weak, garbled with static, but there was no mistaking the message. A fleet of alien ships, much larger and more advanced than anything Earth had seen, was heading straight for them. The girl had been right. The very beings who had destroyed her people were coming, and they would stop at nothing to capture her. "We don't have much time," Dr. Parker said, her voice cold with resolve. "We need to get her out of here. Now." But the alien girl, who had been quiet until now, suddenly stood up, her eyes locked onto Dr. Parker's. "I can't run anymore," she said softly, her voice filled with a strength that surprised them all. "I have to face them. I have to end this." Dr. Parker's eyes widened. "No, you don't understand. We'll protect you. We'll find a way to hide you, to keep you safe." The girl shook her head, her expression unwavering. "You can't stop them. They will destroy everything you've built to get to me. I'm the only one left. I'm the key." "Key to what?" Dr. Parker asked, confused by her cryptic words. "Key to the power that destroyed my people," the girl replied, her voice low. "I was created to lead an army, to wield a weapon that could annihilate entire civilizations. But I wasn't ready for it. I wasn't supposed to survive. But now I have no choice. The weapon, it's inside me." Dr. Parker felt a chill run down her spine as the gravity of the situation hit her. The alien girl wasn't just a victim of circumstance. She was the weapon. And she had been designed to bring destruction on a scale they couldn't even comprehend. But as the girl spoke, something in her expression softened. She looked at the humans who had taken her in, who had tried to help her, and for the first time, there was something almost human in her gaze, a flicker of hope, a spark of kindness. "I don't want to destroy anyone," she said quietly. "I just want to survive. I just want to live. But they won't let me." Dr. Parker knew what she had to do. She couldn't let the girl face this alone, not when she had given them a glimpse of her true vulnerability. The girl had suffered enough. Now it was up to them to protect her, to stop the terrifying force that was bearing down on them. "We'll help you," Dr. Parker said, stepping forward. "We'll face them together." With that, they gathered their resources and made preparations for the battle ahead. They had no idea what awaited them, but they knew one thing. The alien girl, despite the power inside her, wasn't the enemy. The true enemy was coming, and they had to stand together to survive it. As the alien fleet drew closer, the team knew that the next few hours would determine their fate. Would they be able to protect the girl? Could they stop an unstoppable force? Or would the alien girl's hidden power, once unleashed, bring about the end of everything? The air was thick with tension, the weight of the impending battle pressing down on their shoulders. The lab was a silent battlefield as they prepared for what was to come. Outside, the first signs of the alien ships appeared in the sky. Massive, dark shadows that seemed to swallow the stars. They were here. The girl stood at the center of the lab, her body trembling with both fear and determination. Her golden eyes glowed brightly as she took one last, deep breath. "I'm ready," she whispered. "Let's end this."